Hello, 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 and welcome everybody to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the deferred sales trust is an amazing way for you to exit highly appreciated assets, defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax, and ultimately make an impact with your wealth for the causes you believe in most, and just have freedom to invest at optimal timing. We are streaming also on Expert CRE Secrets podcast. And for all the commercial real estate folks out there, we so appreciate everyone watching on YouTube or listening on the podcast. Hey, each and every episode, we're bringing in some of the best real estate, financial, and business minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. By the way, my name is Brett Swartz, founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and I'll be your host today. And I'm excited about our next guest. She's out of the great state of Texas, and after living in St. Thomas for 15 years, she came back home to the home state of Texas with quite a few life and career skills in her pocket. She had an island experience that provided an amazing view and some challenging parts of her professional life. She's owned several businesses, worked 15-hour days, and lived without power for a year, and became one of the most resourceful business owners you could imagine. After that, she dove in and have a new appreciation for being an entrepreneur and being in real estate, where she can serve and help people build million-dollar Texas land wealth. And so please welcome to the show with me, Vanessa Nunez. Vanessa, how are we doing?
Hi, great. Thanks so much for having me, Brett. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, living 15 years on an island and being an entrepreneur. I didn't start out that way. I actually went straight from college. So you can imagine being 25 and then thrown in the depths 3 months later of no water, no running, power, none of it. And living through category 5 and continuing on and through the trials and tribulations, the life on an island taught me a lot of lessons that I've actually learned and used through my business today. So I think when you can learn resiliency, tenacity, and grit, those can't be necessarily given. They have to be taught, and you have to be able to persevere. So living on an island, paradise became my state of mind, not necessarily the location. So I find paradise in most any place these days.
Absolutely amazing. You know, I believe, Vanessa, we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. So I want you to go back maybe to the earlier days, Vanessa, maybe, the earlier days. And I'm curious, what are the one or two gifts that you believe you were given, and how do these gifts help and bless other people today?
Gosh, the lessons that I've been given, first off, definitely paradise is a state of mind. It's learning to look no matter what life circumstances are throwing at you, but it's how you perceive them. And if you think your life is a struggle, it's going to be a struggle. But if you think your life is full of blessings and you look at the small things as blessings, then your life becomes about the blessings, not necessarily about the struggles. So I think that is a number one thing for sure. And I'd rather beg for forgiveness any day than ask permission. Most of the opportunities would have never come my way if I didn't just go ahead and take the bull by the horns and make a decision to jump into something versus, let me ask this person, let me ask that person. I really relied a lot on myself and my intuition, and knowing that if I created everything within myself, that I would be able to persevere and make it through anything. So as long as I counted on myself, not saying that other people and relationships aren't there, but you have to know in yourself and count on yourself first. Those are definitely two of probably some of the biggest lessons that I learned early on in life and in business.
Absolutely. It sounds like three things, right? The gift of mindset and perspective are things that you learn, but you also maybe had an intuition for looking at things in a way where you can be, grateful. And I'm sure you also had to work on this. We all do, right? But also the gift of tenacity to take action, which kind of combines with the gift of confidence. Maybe that each of them feed one another, right? That you have the confidence that you can do it, that you don't need to wait for permission and you're going to go after it. Is that a fair summary so far?
It is. And I think most people have to realize that they create their own economy. You can't turn into, especially in our day in our market in real estate, and say, oh, it's the economy, it's this or that. People are still buying and selling. People are doing business. People are opening businesses. So I think if you have the correct mindset through it, that you're the one that's responsible for creating your personal economy and driving that force along with the others, it's what aids you in being the type of person that you need to be in business these days.
Beautiful. So with that in mind, let's dive right into the topic at hand, which is building $1 million Texas land wealth plan. Yeah, that's a big statement. It's very specific because guess what? Vanessa Nunez has sold over $200 million worth of this, and maybe even more based on our website. Yep. We'll find out. But let's dive right into this, Vanessa. What is the number one secret to building $1 million Texas land wealth plan?
It starts with you make your money when you purchase. It's not, everybody thinks, oh, it's when I sell that I make my money. No, it's absolutely not. You make your money when you actually purchase. So what does that look like? When you purchase, it's not just location. I mean, everybody tells you location, location, location. Yes, that is important. But however, you actually have to purchase it right. So right could be many different things. In this market, you're looking at ways to creatively buy down or creative financing. I helped somebody buy a $4.5 million ranch where we only had $2 million down and we did not get any interest. In the midst of all of this, we have owner financed it with 0 interest. So I think you have to be creative and you have to look at ways outside of the box, not just through traditional lending sometimes.
Okay, perfect. So it sounds like first of all, you start with buying right, and buying right, it's not just price, not just location, but it's terms, right? Yep. And it's ways to get creative with, getting a handle of the deal with stuff like $2 million down and a 0% interest rate, especially in an environment where 6, 7, 8, 9. I can't even imagine people lending on land these days, right? It's got to be in the double digits if they're lending on land. So that's the first secret. What's the number 2 secret to building $1 million Texas land wealth plan?
Is to start. You have to start and look at creative ways that you can have uses for the land. You can lease it out to cattle. You can have a cotton farm. There's so many different ways, and depending on where you are in the state of Texas, what you can use that terms also, not only just in the land itself. I have a cattle guy who just opened his first cattle operation and is selling farm to table. So you've got to look at all these different avenues and what are your dreams? Because if you have dreams and goals, it's how do you make it in reality? You've got to find the property that fits that.
I love that. I heard that the average millionaire, Vanessa, has 7 different income streams. And so maybe the average, $1 million Texas landowner has 7 different income streams. In fact, we did a deal with a gentleman, he's out of Texas, and I feel like he's got cattle. Yep. He's leasing another part that has like an industrial kind of building on it there, warehouse. And then he's got, you tell me, what are the top 7 ways? You mentioned cotton for a second there. You mentioned different ways. What are the top 7 ways someone might generate wealth from land?
You can lease it out to cell towers. I know that solar and wind is a big kind of negative sometimes in the farm and ranch industry, but there's that. You've got water rights, mineral rights. So if you're living in West Texas where there's a lot of oil, you may be having a actual wind turbine where you're pulling a stream of revenue from. You could have a oil well on there. So there's many different streams. You can actually have a beekeeper. You, again, has said cattle. You could have goats. You could have an equine therapy. There's so many different ways that in terms of what your ag or wildlife exemption can help besides saving on taxes on the land as well.
I think that's really important, right? Because most people are thinking hey, I've got to buy a building to have depreciation, but there's all these other I guess it's in the theme here is being creative with what's available and being aware. Talk about, how you were able to absorb or learn all of these things over the years and how you help your clients implement these things.
Gosh, jumping into it, I literally went to some of the old guys. When I say old farm and ranch guys, 10, 15 years ago, they were the guys that were 60 and 70 that are still doing it because they love it. Most people in farm and ranch definitely have some hand in the farm and ranch industry, which I think is important because you've got to live it to understand it. So you've got to be part of the lifestyle. Farm and ranch, equine, all of it is really about living the lifestyle as well as working in the lifestyle. So it's learning from hands-on. It's not an industry where you just say, oh, I'm going to go sell, farm and ranch. You've got to understand mineral rights. You've got to understand the water rights. You got to understand the air rights. There's so many different nuances in farm and ranch than just here's the land. You got to understand cross fencing. You got to understand the different types of soils. You got to understand if you're east or west of the state, what those soils actually have in terms of, are they able to grow crops? Are they better for, grapes? I mean, there's so many different facets of actually farm and ranch and land wealth.
I think that's really well said, and it feels like you really became a student of the land wealth game by going to those who have created the wealth and absorbing, and not only absorbing it for knowledge to help your clients, but also living the lifestyle and working with these buyers and sellers of land. So, like, Vanessa, what would you say you're most passionate about when it comes to helping people build wealth with land? And in Texas, I got a chance to see you speak on stage, and I was so inspired here in Florida when you came about 6-7 months ago. So talk us just through, what continues to help you drive to help more and more people build wealth with Texas land.
Really, it really has to do with people's dreams. I mean, most importantly, when they're looking for land, it's because they want to go, let's say, quote unquote, back to their roots, or they may be first generation that, having a cattle ranch. Some people think longhorns are just decorative ornaments here in Texas, but one of my cattle guys actually raises longhorn. And if you've never had the meat, it's phenomenal. And he's taken it as a farm to market. So when we started, he's like, okay, I need amazing grass that I can actually house this in, where I can be close to the butcher where they use, and then they bring it literally to straight onto the table, and they work with different brew houses that this is specifically the only place that they get their meat. So when you're working with somebody, you want to understand their goals and their dreams, because we're here to help make it a reality and find a way through that.
Absolutely. So understand their goals and dreams, and help people to connect how wealth and land can do those things. Yeah, I love the way you put that back to their roots, right? There's a lot of people moving out of different areas to get to more places that are, I guess, a little bit more flexible for them to build their roots and build wealth. Talk about just the exodus that you've seen from places like California, from places like New York, from places like all over that are pouring into Texas, and how that's changed some of the wealth and the land purchases.
I think a lot of people want their space. They want something to call their own, and they realize that Texas affords that. So most people don't realize that, truthfully, 92% of Texas is still privately owned. So when people look at Texas and they're like, oh my God, it's overrun, it's overcrowded. Actually, 92% is still owned individually by individuals versus as, basically a city. So there's a lot of wide open space for you to be able to come in and get it. And what I'm seeing from clients is people come in and they want to know, hey, what can I do? What allows me to be ag exempt? What allows me to be wildlife exempt? How can I have my own space? Some people just want as little as chickens. Some people want the whole gamut. They want horses and cattle and the pigs, the goats, and everything. So they're raising everything in a biodynamic fashion on their own space. So I think most people that are coming here, they want space. They're looking for a change in the way of life, of being overcrowded, and again, getting back to the roots of what American Western life has been. So that means owning land.
Absolutely. I could agree with you more. And I always feel like this overcrowded is not just physical space. It's the government overcrowding us with all of their stuff that they want to do.
Exactly.
Right? All of their things. So just talk about that. Just, places like, I feel like, we call it free Florida now. My wife and I and kids, we just moved out to Florida. We call it free Florida. Talk about free Texas for a while and what that kind of means to those that care about it most.
Well, we are a right to bear arms state. So we always say it's Texas. It's, guns up, legal to carry. So you've got a lot of people who are really going back and embracing what our country was founded on and the amendments. So obviously we're right to bear arms. People love the fact that they can shoot on their own land, that they can hunt on their own land. And they have the right to do so. Nobody's going to come in and take that off. Sometimes you have to be careful showing land, and you got to make sure that you're actually on the land that you're showing, especially if the fences aren't up, because, you might have a gun in your face sometimes.
Absolutely. And by the way, you can learn more about Vanessa Nunez by going to ranchetexas.com. It's ranchetexas.com, which is a cool website, by the way. Vanessa Nunez, and Nunez is spelled Nunez. Vanessa is also a part of EXP, and so am I. It's an amazing brokerage that we love as an opportunity to grow with this entrepreneur real estate focused company that we all come from different ways of being entrepreneurs in real estate. And so Vanessa, talk about that briefly, just the power of EXP, for example, bringing us together through the network, and just what that's mean for you and the agents that you serve.
Gosh, EXP, it really is built for entrepreneurs. The minute I saw it, Jean Frederick's always like, man, she was the one who literally saw it and said, can I please just bypass all of this, BS? I need to get on to selling. And that's because I'm a true entrepreneur. I've done so many different other businesses, and EXP was literally built for someone like me. And it brings connection just from opportunities that we normally wouldn't have. I get to build my own quote unquote brokerage within a brokerage. So I get to have Ranch Texas and not have the liability of being my, the actual broker that has to worry about the E&O insurance and worried about being sued and this and that. EXP is literally 100% an entrepreneur in real estate's dream. You've got 7 different avenues of income. I've been blessed to be able to be an icon agent for 7 consecutive years, just started over, and will be an 8th time icon in 2024. So I think what it does for you, it puts you in that mindset of, okay, I'm creating my economy, and I have several different ways in doing so, but I get to bring people along. So I think that's what's important, is that you get to bring people along, you get to work with people that you like, and you get to meet even more people. I had the experience of meeting you in Orlando, like you said, 6-7 months ago. And then I just came back from New York and had the pleasure of speaking there. And the amount of people that really want to truly collaborate and not hide their success or their secrets to their personal success. They want to share with everyone. And I think that's the most important thing that EXP has brought in the real estate world, is that it's the mindset of making sure that we're all collaborating so that we're all succeeding.
Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I fell in love with capital gains tax solutions, what we do with the deferred sales trust, but I fell equally in love with EXP and the amount of amazing people that are driven to make a difference in this world with their gifts and talents within real estate. But exactly right, to bring people along, right? And it reminds me of what you said in the very beginning with the gift of mindset and perspective, right? And not only does EXP allow that, and you can have a gift of mindset and perspective any company you're at, but the question is the fundamental model set up for success, right? To be able to build upon everyone coming along. And it just seems like, and it feels like, and the numbers don't lie when you underwrite the model, that it is built for everyone to come along, and it aligns financially and for what people's dreams are. So I couldn't agree with you more. By the way, if you want to learn more about all of this, you can connect with me or Vanessa to talk about EXP. It's absolutely amazing. That being said, Vanessa, we want to shift into just a little bit into capital gains tax. We were talking before the show, and you're like, look, Brett, I've got clients. Not only they're selling multi-million-dollar land in Texas, but they're also selling these businesses, and they're faced with a lot of tax. So team me up on the deals that you're working on, and maybe we'll talk a little bit strategy here to how we might be able to help them.
What I love of the fact is that we can work together in finding solutions for our clients more than ever. Like I just told you we jumped on, I said, hey, in conversation, I was with two of my clients. They're selling their businesses, and they both need tax solutions because they do not want to be hit heavily. And when you're selling a $4 million business, you've got to figure out what strategies you can do to keep that money, because they've worked 26 years in building this business. And so they're trying to figure out, how do we keep this in our pockets versus giving it all away?
Absolutely. So let's geek out with this for a minute here. So it's a $4 million exit potentially here on a business sale, which, by the way, is not 1031 eligible for everyone, right? And let's just imagine they actually want to invest into land with Vanessa. She has an amazing opportunity. Values have come down a little bit, or they want to start running cattle. They want to start running whatever other business opportunity with land, and yet they're selling a business and they can't 1031 into it, and they have all this tax. Now, if they're in Texas, by the way, neat part about Texas and Florida, some other states, there's no capital gains tax state. However, federal is 20%. And then you have like the Obamacare, Medicare, it's like a 3.8%. Depending on depreciation recapture, you could be a little bit more what they're selling. But what's this amount is about 25% of the tax. So if they're selling at $4 million, depending on what type of...
Cost $1 million.
Yeah, it costs them about $1 million, right? It costs them about $1 million. So that's a big amount of wealth, right? That it can be deferred. And so step one, Vanessa, we could set up a trust. Step two, the trust could go into the into the contract, whatever the contract might be, right? And it's like an option, like a 1031. Like in a 1031, what do? You add the language into the contract as an option to use at the close of escrow. We do the same thing with the trust, and so they exercise the option. Essentially, they can assign the interest to the trust, and the $4 million hits the trust instead of hitting their personal account. Now they're in a deferral state, and they did what's called an installment sale. A little bit of what you talked about in the beginning. You said, hey, we buy on terms, meaning we give a $2 million down payment, let's say on a $5 or $6 million piece of land, and the seller carried back. Now in that scenario, they carried at 0%. In this scenario, we write the note at typically 6, 7, 8, 9%, but we do not finance the buyer, we finance the trust. So the buyer shows up, let's say for $4 million for the business, the trust jumps in right in between the seller and the buyer. And what happens is the seller sells it first to the trust, gets a promissory note for $4 million, and immediately the trust sells it to the buyer. They take capital, they take the title, and they're gone. And what's left is this money is sitting typically in like a Charles Schwab. And then guess what? Vanessa finds a land deal, an opportunity. What questions do you have at that point? The trust can invest into that.
Well, I find it very similar to 1031 exchanges. I've been blessed to do quite a few of those through my life. And 1 year I had 15, which is almost unheard of to do that many in a year. But I was very blessed. And what I look for then is that we look for the optimal right deal. So when you have the money just sitting there in a trust that's ready and willing to use, that means you've got the opportunity of time on your side. And you can then actually source out the best deals in order to build greater wealth on that.
Absolutely. And then we call that the, not having to be in the shotgun wedding, right? Where you're forced to get engaged in 45 days and married in 180 days, and you're running around with your hair on fire, and you're trying to negotiate with the banks to get you decent interest rates, and the sellers aren't quite willing to sell because they have large tax. And we like to be in what's called a blue ocean of opportunity, in a safe harbor where we can stay liquid, diversified. You can invest into, promissory notes. You can invest or lending. You can do business ventures. You can do, tech company. You can do crypto if you want to do some crypto. You can do land development. You can do just pure development, develop a multifamily property, all tax deferred, within the constraints of the trust. So talk about why a lot of people, Vanessa, I don't know, you just heard about this maybe for the first time in the last year since we've been talking, but talk about what it can mean for those that not only have capital gains tax, they want that flexibility with timing, but also this estate tax, right? In fact, 40% debt tax that's above and beyond a stepped up basis. It has nothing to do with that. It's just, it's in fact Yellowstone. You've probably seen the show. A lot of people have. Kevin Costner is sitting there going, oh my gosh, I've got this land that I don't want to sell and keep with the family. It's part of his dream. And Beth, his daughter, is going, Dad, you got to sell, because if you don't, the government's going to take it anyway because of the debt tax. You're not going to be able to afford it. And so that's the entire premise of the show. So talk about just what it would mean if we could help people not only sell, but eliminate that estate tax. Now, could they turn around and go buy some land? They can with the trust, right? So they can still get
Right.
the land dream, but they've eliminated that estate tax like on $100 million ranch sale.
Absolutely. It's very funny that you said this because within the past year, I actually got to help a family member. My best friend, her son's father passed away, but had a lot of land and homes and so forth. And so we helped them through this, actually set up, because he knew he was passing. He had ALS, and we were able to, just with understanding my understanding of the 40% death tax and everything that was going on, how are some ways that he could do this? So I would talk to the son then would go to dad and say, hey, we need to put this somehow so it's protected. So they end up putting everything in a trust, so when they go to sell it, there's going to be no gains in the sense of it going to the government. They can then turn around and use it to purchase different streams of income that they want to be able to do through their life.
Absolutely. And this is like game changing. If you want to learn about how to do this in a very efficient way, that's been 27 years, thousands of closes, billions and billions and billions of assets used with the DST 1.0 and the 2.0, and how to eliminate the estate tax using the DST 2.0, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Also, check out the new book, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. It is the proven playbook, we call it, for unlocking your ideal wealth plan with selling any asset of any kind for yourself or for your clients. We have people like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book, pretty cool.
I love it.
And then we also have, we get number one bestseller on Amazon. So check all of that out. That being said, Vanessa, are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes, let's go with the lightning round.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you make sure to tell yourself to do?
Buy all the land you can. Don't sell it. Because let me tell you, if I didn't sell any of that land that I had on the island, yeah, because they don't make more of it.
Got it. Buy all the land you can. Don't sell it. Excellent. Excellent. Question number 2. What's the number one book that you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
The number one book that I've gifted in the past year, Diary of a CEO.
Diary of a CEO. I'll have to check that one out. Question number 3. What are you most curious about right now?
What am I most curious about? That's a great question. Curiosity is really diving into the world of TV, actually. So as we're launching Cowboys, Trailers, and Ranches on a TV show, it's really my curiosity is leading towards how that's going to change the trajectory of some things we've got going on.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that. And I think you were also part of the, is it the Country Music Awards or some kind of big thing there in Texas recently that it seemed amazing.
That's what I mean by the trajectory. With all of this, it's like opportunities are coming along that I would have never imagined. So yes, I was at the Texas Country Music Awards and got to meet Chad Prather. Let me tell you what, he's a character, and it was awesome. And really down to earth, genuine human being.
Absolutely amazing. Love that. Second to last question. What's the number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
The number one leadership quote. Wow. That's
or theme. It could be a theme too. It could be like the theme that you try to live by.
Never lose the grit. Never lose the grit, really. It's more of a theme. You don't ever want to lose your grit.
What's the number one secret to never losing your grit?
Staying curious, actually. And pushing yourself, staying curious and pushing yourself and taking risks, not calculated risks. Just sometimes it's just taking a risk.
Absolutely. Last question. After all your success, Vanessa, helping all the people you've helped over the years to build wealth and to have full, authentic lives that are not holding back, but being their true, authentic self, and being an amazing leader. How do you stay centered? Best way to stay centered in your values, and then stay encouraged to charge forward to reach even higher heights?
What's really important to me is diving into that routine. I still get up at 4:20 in the morning. I actually meditate, have a journal practice that's a gratitude practice every day, and then I head to the gym. And every year I stay true to my goals. I have a long goal planning session. first with my husband and my family just to kind of see what they want. And then I really sit down with myself. And I think that's what's helped me stay centered through my whole life and going and reaching to the next heights.
Vanessa Nunez, it's been absolutely a pleasure to have you on the show. I am honestly so grateful for the opportunity to meet you. I had no clue who you were until you're on the stage. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and EXP continues to amaze me with all of the amazing leaders. I want to encourage you. First, I want to thank you for being on the show, sharing a bit of that amazingness, sharing some wisdom with us, sharing a part of your story. I want to encourage you to continue to have the gift of mindset and perspective, the gift of tenacity and action, and the gift of confidence that can help other leaders grow and help your clients succeed in their wealth plan. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, could you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
It's always good to, a lot of people reach out to me on Instagram. That's Vanessa Nunez Realtor or Ranch Texas Team, either one of those. And we will answer right away. That's a great place to look and find and kind of see what's going on.
Amazing. Thank you, Vanessa. And I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast, also streamed on Expert CRE Secrets Podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains and estate tax options, and not having a clear plan is the enemy. And using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the DST 1.0 or the 2.0 is an amazing way for you to defer capital gains tax and eliminate the estate tax so you can create and preserve more wealth and make a bigger impact with your wealth. If we could be of any service to you, we would love the opportunity to show you what we can do to help you out. You can just go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. Please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast and also the YouTube channel, and then check out the book. It's called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. It's hit #1 bestseller on Amazon in a couple categories, and we're very proud of the book. And I think it would really help you get some perspective and some mindset around tax flow and not just cash flow. Check that out, Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan. With that being said, we appreciate everyone out there,